Good morning to you. This is Angela with Parker's Permaculture. Standing down near my chicken coop. It's difficult to tell it's a chicken coop right now because my mint and my Concord grapes have gone nuts. And also this Oregon sweetmeat squash is taken over as well, which is what I designed the chicken coop for, to be a trellis and serve multiple functions. So it doesn't just house the chickens, it is a place over which I can grow food and flowers. Mentioned in the past, I have a couple of videos on building healthy soils, and I think it is important when we look at gardening, permaculture or any kind of gardening, that we understand our role. And what happens in a garden is that we take dead things and with them we produce living things. If you want to grow living things without acknowledging that death is part of the system and decomposition is part of the system, you are not doing permaculture. And also you are setting yourself up for loads of problems because that's how nature has designed it. We can't live in a hyper clean bacteria and fungi free system where we feed inorganic fertilizers that are derived from petroleum byproducts and derived from munitions byproducts from World War II. We can't use those kind of inorganic methods because that's not how nature works. We live in an organic system, and the reality is we take dead things and with them, we produce living things. So with that framework in mind, I'm doing some chop and drop. You can see right here, been cutting up gladiolus and comfrey and things like that. And I wanted to talk today about 2 easy ways you can speed up the production of soil in your garden. I've talked about building healthy soil and how we have a strong connection between organic matter in the soil and healthy soil biology and plant productivity. There are 2 easy mechanical ways you can build soil more quickly that don't require any extra labor on your part. So there is chop and drop, there's compost bins, there's worm bins, there's all kinds of methods, adding amendments, remineralizing your soil. But these are 2 simple things. Okay, so the first one is, let's talk about utilizing paths as a resource for soil building. So in my garden, it's hard to see, but I have lots of paths and they're all mulched heavily with wood chips. And in fact, a number of these paths feed water from the rain garden down into my annual veggie beds. And in doing so, they not only serve as a path, but as a conduit for water, okay, in the form of swales. But they also are good at soil building. So let's look over here. I can use paths to turn dead material into living material. So it may not look like it, but there is a path along this fence. It's just really overgrown right now. So let's go in and look. Paths are a really underutilized, underappreciated way of building soil, of taking dead material and turning it into rich humus. So if we look here, look at this. This is all wood chips decomposing. So when we walk on paths, we use the mechanical force of our feet or the wheelbarrow, and it physically breaks down large pieces of plant material, aka wood chips, into smaller pieces that have more surface area that the soil bacteria and fungi can use. And I think that is important to remember. The mechanical process of decomposition aids the biological and chemical processes of decomposition. So let's not forget that. Paths are a great resource. Stacking functions in permaculture. They give us a place to walk. They are also soil producers. Okay? All right. So now I'm down in my chicken run. You can see here I'm next to the chicken coop. And I want to talk about the second way we can build soil with no extra effort on our part. And that is utilizing livestock. So for me, obviously pigs are great at this, but I live in the city and my neighbors would not be happy if I had pigs. So I have ducks and chickens. And I'm in this part of the food forest here, and I needed to do a bunch of chop and drop because I had some broken fig branches and some broken mulberry branches from some wind and other kind of significant weather that we had, and they needed to be cut up. Also had a few apple branches break just from the weight of the fruit. So all I do is I just chop them up and I throw them on the ground. That's it. I let the chickens do the rest. It's very minimal effort on my part. And the chickens live out their chickenness, as Joel Salatin says, and they scratch and they peck. And the ducks bill around, and they break that down into smaller pieces that the detritivores can then access. So we're taking those big pieces of wood and through scratching and pecking, break them up so that they have more surface area, right? So take these big pieces, break them up, more surface area that the worms and millipedes and roly-polies are gonna go for. And then in turn, once those get broken down even smaller, and the chickens continue to scratch that even more, you get here, this is an area where the chickens were scratching this morning. You get really lovely, friable, light soil that is pretty much 100% organic matter. And the soil microbes have been able to access it. The soil fungi have been able to access it and make those minerals and nutrients that are in that dead plant matter bioavailable to our living plant. So we are taking the natural behavior of our chickens and we are using that to increase our soil fertility and to speed up our processes of decomposition. So just as within the path, down in your chicken run, you may find that you can take the work that they've done and the really deep, rich, healthy soil, and you might need to shovel it onto your garden beds. But even just having it in proximity here, I find that I end up with a very thick layer of fluffy, light humus, and I need to shovel it and move it around because it almost ends up being too much. And for me, I had a design issue here. My chickens are at the lowest point in my garden, and ideally you would put them uphill so that you can quickly shovel that finished compost downhill. So it's not a perfect system for me, but it is very workable and it's very productive. So I hope those 2 tips helped you. Use your path, your system of paths, use your chickens, or if you're lucky enough to have pigs, use that mechanical disturbance in the garden and see the fertility improve as your soil is built more quickly. I will be back soon. I have lots more to talk about soil building. I have a video coming up on remineralizing your soil and also a video about fall and winter cover crops. So those will be coming out here soon. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and happy gardening.